All right, welcome to the WSU Global Connections Career Development webinar tonight. My name is Chris Miller. I am the WSU Global Campus Career Counselor. The topic I'm going to be presenting on tonight is career personality assessment, and hopefully you had a chance to do the assessment ahead of time. I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth each specific type and kind of go over the different spectra of a focus here. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, please utilize the chat box. I find mine through the menu on the More side. There's a chat drop down, the little ellipses tab there, the 3 dots. And later on in the webinar, I'm going to ask if you would like to provide your 4-letter code. Then I will provide some more information about that specific type. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. If you have ever been to one of my glorious webinars, you know that I always, after the intro, start with the snapshot of the career development process. And this is a decent snapshot of it, I think, a decent image of it. We're really in the know thyself, know yourself yellow section for this topic tonight. And ideally, an assessment would help you do the next few steps. So exploring options, getting focused, and taking action. And I will talk about how it can help with exploring options, how it is not that helpful, but it does help with getting focused and also taking action. But mainly in the know thyself, because it is an assessment, and I will discuss that a little bit down the line. So with any career assessment, there are limitations to keep in mind. And these are some of the several that Richard Bowles highlights on his website, Job Hunter's Bible, and that is a companion piece for his famous book, What Color is Your Parachute? And in its 1 millionth edition, it seems like. But it is a very popular and very useful career development tool, kind of, I would say, from start to finish, and can help you through that career development process also. And I think it's just a really, it's an easy read. There's a lot of good introspective exercises in there to help you with your career decision making. So obviously no test can fully measure you. It's very important to let intuition be your guide. Try not to predetermine how you want the test to turn out. So try not to think like someone would in a specific occupation. You're looking for clues and suggestions. You're not going to get that perfect answer that this is the perfect career for you. There's not a perfect career for most people, but there are many careers that can fulfill a given person's work values. And trying out several different assessments is very important, especially with this assessment. And I'll talk about that again in a little bit. So I guess I briefly mentioned some of the limitations in the kind of the rules for taking assessments. But the assessment that you took is based on Carl Jung's typological theory, and Myers-Briggs famously took that information and kind of made this, they call it an indicator, this assessment, this, I guess you'd call it a workbook if you had it. It used to be a physical paper, but they kind of translated this for you to adapt to your career life and your personal life, interpersonal life. And so I'm going to refer to it as the MBTI because this is kind of a free version of the MBTI. That stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So if I go back and forth with different terminology, I'm referring to the assessment you took, which is a free version, not quite as in-depth as the MBTI. And later on, I'll show you an example of it if you want to actually take it. So it's for general understanding of personality in relation to career development. That's how I use it. It's also good for interpersonal relationships, but that's not the version of the MBTI that I use, and I haven't seen that one in many years. It is not a good assessment of general personality. Obviously, personality is super complex, and no assessment is going to be able to really pin down a person's personality. One of the most famous personality inventories is the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, and that is to root out psychopathology within people. So that one is used basically to help figure out a personality that's deviating from the norm. So obviously that's not a great assessment for career development. Understanding and clarifying specific work preferences and goals, I think, is where it is one of its strengths. And there are possible links to job, families, and occupations, and that is definitely one of the limitations part, which I will talk about when I review the actual MBTI with you. So these are the 16 Jungian types. I'll go ahead and read a brief synopsis of each one because I think it's helpful to get an idea of, you know, how these types can be so different from just one letter changing. So I myself am an INFP, and so when I read something like INFJ counselor, I do see the differences, and it's just one of the one spectrum is different. So bear with me while I read these different types. I think it is helpful to kind of give you an idea of each one and their titles. And if you've seen these titles in different places, sometimes they're a little bit different, but they kind of describe the same thing. So I'm going to start with ISTJ, which is known as the inspector. They are serious and quiet, interested in security and peaceful living, extremely thorough, responsible, and dependable, well-developed powers of concentration, usually interested in supporting and promoting traditions and establishments. ISTP is the operator, quiet and reserved, interested in how and why things work, excellent skills with mechanical things, risk takers who live for the moment, usually interested in talented and extreme sports, uncomplicated in their desires. The protector is quiet, kind, and conscientious, can be depended on to follow through, usually puts the needs of others above their own needs, stable and practical, and they value security and traditions. ISFP is the composer. They're quiet, serious, sensitive, and kind, do not like conflict, and not likely to do things which may generate conflict. They are loyal and faithful. INFJ is the counselor. Quietly forceful, original, and sensitive, tend to stick to things until they are done. Extremely intuitive about people and concerned for their feelings. INFP is the healer. They are quiet, reflective, idealistic, interested in serving humanity, well-developed value system, which they strive to live in accordance with. INTJ is the mastermind. Independent, original, analytical, and determined, have an exceptional ability to turn theories into solid plans of action, highly value knowledge, competence, and structure. INTP is the architect. They are logical, original, creative thinkers, can become very excited about theories and ideas, exceptionally capable and driven to turn theories into clear understandings. ESTP is the promoter. Friendly, adaptable, and action-oriented. They're doers who are focused on immediate results, living in the here and now. They're risk takers who live fast-paced lifestyles. ESTJ is the supervisor. Practical, traditional, and organized, likely to be athletic, not interested in theory or abstraction unless they see the practical application. They have clear visions of the way things should be. They're loyal, hardworking, and like to be in charge. ESFP is the performer. They are people-oriented and fun-loving. They make things more fun for others by their enjoyment. Living for the moment, they love new experiences. They dislike theory and impersonal analysis. ESFJ is the provider. They are warm-hearted, popular, and conscientious. They tend to put the needs of others over their own needs, feel strong sense of responsibility and duty, and value traditions and security. ENFP is the champion. They're enthusiastic, idealistic, and creative. They're able to do almost anything that interests them. Great people skills, need to live in accordance with their inner values. ENFJ is the teacher. Popular and sensitive, with outstanding people skills, externally focused with real concern for how others think and feel, usually dislike being alone. They see everything from the human angle and dislike impersonal analysis. ENTP is the inventor. They are creative, resourceful, and intellectually quick, good at a broad range of things. They enjoy debating issues and may be into one-upsmanship. And ENTJ is the field marshal. They are assertive and outspoken. They're driven to lead, excellent ability to understand difficult organizational problems and create solid solutions. So those are a brief descriptions of each of these types. And once you tell me your own type, I can give you a little bit more information about your specific type to help you with your career development. To kind of talk about these, the spectra, each spectrum, they're also, they're called poles. They're not sometimes referred to as dichotomies, but they're not real. I mean, they are dichotomies in terms of their definition, but where we lie on each spectrum shows that we're likely not either completely one way, completely clearly one way or another way, I should say. MBTI would be very happy to hear me saying clearly prefer, and I'll tell you why in a bit. So extroversion and introversion. So this deals with how we interact with the world, where we prefer to focus our attention, internally versus externally, and from where we derive our energy. So extroverts are energized by being with people. They like to be the center of attention. They act, then think. Easy to read, share personal information freely, talk more than listen. They communicate with enthusiasm, respond quickly, prefer breadth to depth, whereas introverts are energized by time alone. They avoid being the center of attention. They think and then act. They are more private and share personal information with few. Listen more than talk, keep enthusiasm to themselves, respond after thinking things through, and prefer depth to breadth. Sensors versus intuitors. So this is how we take in and process information. Sensors trust what is certain and concrete, like new ideas if they have a practical application, value realism and common sense, like to use and hone established skills, tend to be specific and literal, present information in a step-by-step manner, and are oriented to the present, whereas intuitors trust inspiration and inference, like new ideas and concepts for their own sake, value imagination and innovation, like to learn new skills, tend to be general and figurative, present information in a roundabout way, and are oriented toward the future. For the judging and perceiving spectrum, this is how we prefer to live, structured versus spontaneous, and how we orient ourselves to the world externally. So judgers are happiest after decisions have been made, have a work ethic, set goals and work toward achieving them on time, prefer knowing what they are getting into, are product-oriented, derive satisfaction from finishing projects, see time as a finite resource, whereas perceivers are happiest leaving options open, have a play ethic, change goals as new information becomes available. They like adapting to new situations, and they are process-oriented instead of product-oriented, so how things get done instead of what is getting done. Derive satisfaction from starting projects, and see time as a renewable resource, and deadlines are elastic. And then for thinkers and feelers on that spectrum, this is the way we make decisions or come to conclusions. Thinkers step back, apply impersonal analysis to problems, value logic, justice, and fairness, naturally see flaws that tend to be critical, may be seen as heartless, insensitive, and uncaring, more important to be truthful than tactful, believe feelings are valid only if they are logical, are motivated by desire to achieve and accomplish, compared to feelers that step forward, consider effect of actions on others, value empathy and harmony, see the exception to the rule, like to please others and show appreciation, may be seen as over-emotional, weak, or illogical, are important to be both truthful and tactful, believe any feeling is valid, whether it makes sense or not, and are motivated by the desire to be appreciated. So that shows you the difference of on each spectrum. It kind of gives you an idea of how you find those scores for yourself. So I'll just give you a little bit of background about the MBTI. And while I'm doing that, you can take an opportunity to enter your type in the chat box. And I'll try to pull that up now so I can see it. Thank you, Heather. I see ISFP. So a little MBTI info about the background. Like I said, it was developed by Carl Jung. But I mean, it was built upon the work of Carl Jung. And actually, Catherine Cook Briggs was working on personality at the same time, which is interesting. So it was constructed by Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter, Isabel Briggs Myers. So it's a mother-daughter combo that developed the Myers-Briggs. It emphasizes that we all have specific preferences in the way we construe our experiences, and these preferences underlie our interests, needs, values, and motivation. Like I said, it's based on Carl Jung's work, but Carl Jung's work was not based on any kind of controlled scientific studies. This is like 1920-ish is about the time he was working on it. Instead on subjective clinical observation, introspection, and anecdote, which of course wouldn't fly in terms of scientific validity these days. Catherine Cook Briggs began her research in 1917, so just about the same time when she met her future son-in-law, and she observed very marked differences between his personality and that of other family members. So he must have been quite a character. He must have been really interesting. And she embarked on a project of reading biographies and subsequently developed a typology where she proposed 4 temperaments: meditative, spontaneous, executive, and social. And then Carl Jung's book was published in 1923, in English, I should say, first in German in 1921. And she saw that his theory was similar to, but went far beyond her own. So she started to really use that to build up this typology indicator. So her daughter, Isabel Briggs Myers, added her work and would progressively take over time. And so they started creating this indicator during World War II in the belief that a knowledge of personality preferences would help women who are entering the industrial workforce for the first time to identify the sort of wartime jobs that would be most comfortable and effective for them. And so the first time the actual handbook was published was in 44, and then it was actually Briggs Myers first, and then in 56 changed to Myers-Briggs type indicator as her daughter was doing most of the work, furthering most of the research at that time. So I think that's pretty interesting. Okay, we got ISFP, INFJ, and so two are similar. And I am an INFP, and 1, 2, 3, so 4. Okay, I will start with the ISFP. It takes me, oh, it's right on top, perfect. And I'm just gonna give you some more career development information about your type. I have a lot of general information and career information about each type, so if you are interested in getting more of a rundown of your specific type, you can send me an email, and I can email you a thorough breakdown of your specific type. So this is your type at work for ISFP. You might first notice, kind, warm-hearted, caring, accepting, tolerant, and patient. Your work style, wanting to be helpful, want their work to foster and further their people-oriented values in tangible ways, have an active hands-on style, and place most confidence in what has been learned from direct experience. You're independent, prefer to have freedom from restrictive structures and rules, but also like to be involved with others. When it comes to groups and teams, you prefer a cooperative, supportive, and participatory climate where everyone is regarded as equal and treated with respect. You're excellent gatherers of information and bring data to bear on team deliberations. During change, so during times of change, you're open to change that is congruent with your values and commitments to people, but may have difficulty supporting changes that seem to go against these commitments. You focus your attention and energy on actualities and the concerns of the present, and may be less drawn to or comfortable with considering what might be. During times of conflict, you're often barometers for conflict and are aware when discord exists in a relationship or group. You may assume responsibility for fixing what they did not break, Under stress, may be critical toward themselves and or find fault with others. In terms of contributions, you value and demonstrate loyalty to people, groups, and organizations, champion the spontaneous enjoyment of life, and particularly today's special moments. You may be experienced as particularly attentive to the needs of others, often showing you care by doing something special for them, and sometimes as not assertive enough about their own needs and deeds and having a difficulty saying no. So responsive to current needs that they may become sidetracked. So that's a little bit more about the ISFP at work. Okay, INFJ. Also on top of my IN pile. I'm glad to hear that's accurate. I find mine definitely is for INFP. But for INFJ at work, what you might notice first: warm, cooperative, trusting, sensitive, tactful, easy to get along with, have good communication skills, are persuasive and good listeners. Seem to have their act together. In terms of work style, prefer a supportive environment that is friendly and non-competitive, where harmony and praise are common. See work as a mission of service, want to work to make a difference for others, and want to grow through your work. In terms of being on groups or on teams, are imaginative, have or generate ideas, are comfortable with abstraction and complexity, and can synthesize multiple perspectives or diverse information. Encourage and empower others, want and give appreciation and affirmation, seek to create cohesion. And during times of change, may experience tension between being too oriented toward newness and change and honoring traditions and what has proven to be comfortable for people. Look for and may be aware of significance in events that others may miss or deem unimportant. During conflict, prize and strive for harmony and take a facilitative approach. Are often peacemakers and mediators who know how to resolve difficulties. They're able to find some good in a painful situation. And for contributions, they're strong in idealistic beliefs in people and in what they can accomplish, and encouragement of others to maximize their abilities and potential. They are visionary, advocating their visions, values, and ideals. And INFJs may be experienced as having strong convictions, inner vision, and lofty goals, and sometimes as being single-minded, inflexible about how things ought to be. Indirect and private, so they may be hard to get to know. Self-critical, hard on themselves. That's a little bit about the INFJs at work. ENFP. Not the first on my file here. ENFP for EN. Okay. All right, ENFP at work. What you might notice first are lively and often full of excitement, stimulate activity, and get others excited. Generate a lot of ideas and options, seem to be surrounded by possibilities, are expansive and imaginative. Work style are most drawn to work that has meaning and value for them, which fosters human growth. Are cooperative and are natural networkers who do best when they have contact with and / stimulation from others. They work from inspiration, not a plan. In groups and on teams, they are catalysts, initiators, and motivators who get things going and are energized by starting something new. Attend to the people and group process aspect of the team. Notice and encourage the gifts in others. Want and give recognition. During times of change, are natural change agents who are energized and captivated by change, and often have a let's give it a try / go with the flow outlook. Place high priority on changes which make things better for people, including themselves and their team members. During times of conflict, they value interpersonal harmony, emphasize areas of accord and unity, and de-emphasize points of contention. Want to consider and incorporate everyone's viewpoint and can help move the team toward consensus. In terms of contributions, visionary and idealistic, want the organization, team, and individual to pursue the vision and make a difference for people. Willing to try new things and take risks, impart a sense of adventure. They may be experienced as visionary dreamers, sometimes as appearing to lack direction and focus, have a lot going on, and sometimes as being overcommitted, moving from one project or cause to another, when a more intriguing possibility arises. Disarming, having ready and plausible explanations for most occurrences. That's a little bit about the ENFP at work. And lastly, INTJ. What you might notice first: serious and confident, independent, may seem cool, distant, don't communicate much, are inquisitive and skeptical, raise questions about everything, have ideas in mind so they propose solutions and give advice. Work style: are comfortable working alone and like to have their own workspace, do their best work when they have a grasp of the big picture and the underlying principles, want to understand something before trying it. Highly value competence in self and others and like to continue to learn and expand your capabilities. In terms of groups and teams, are not naturally drawn to teams and may appear uninvolved, boil much of the group's discussion and deliberation down to essential points, are intellectually playful but otherwise earnest. During times of change, project calm and often provide a stabilizing influence, see change as a means to improve, to address weaknesses and problems in systems, or to achieve specific organizational outcomes. Want to know why? Take a rational, systematic approach to change. During times of conflict, want to analyze all components, including irrational aspects, to look for patterns or cause and effects relationships. May avoid or withdraw unless the conflict is an obstacle to accomplishment. Under stress, may feel immobilized, having emotional reactions, or give sudden priority to seemingly insignificant activities or events. In terms of contributions, generate and promote vision, take a long-range view of the consequences of today's deliberations, able to see things from a new perspective, providing original ideas or insights, and synthesizing complex information or diverse perspectives, may be experienced as persevering and determined, and sometimes as so confident their position is right that they stubbornly hang on to ideas and visions too long. Competent and self-assured, and sometimes as seeming to regard themselves as superior, having demanding standards and sometimes as critical of self and others when standards aren't met. It's a little bit about the INTJ at work. Also, there's a population distribution here, which I think is, oops, wrong one. It's jumping on me. To just give you an idea of just what the general occurrence of each type is in the US, this is a US population distribution. So it's see that some types are more common than others, specifically ISFJ, ISTJ, and then the E's, ESFJ, and I guess ESTJ is the second highest, whereas INFJ and ENTJ are some of the are the two types that occur less frequently in the U.S. So they're a little bit more unique. And now I click and it doesn't want to go. There we go. So some of the MBTI strengths. So I've talked about some of the limitations before. It's not a great tool for career exploration, for really researching career options based on, work personality. But in terms of, if you already have ideal careers in mind that you've done through a different assessment, like a strong interest inventory, and maybe you're just thinking about how it works in your own career, it definitely has strengths in terms of team building, group dynamics, professional development, marketing, leadership training, coaching, couples therapy. That's some of the ways, that's some of the applications. It's a great tool for organizational success. Now I'm going to show you a sample of the MBTI in case you're interested in taking it at some point. You've taken the free version, and it's available for WSU students for $15. So if you're interested, let me know. So I will go through a few of the sections of the MBTI and highlight how it works best. And then I'll talk about the self-selection ratio when it gets into the occupational, the specific career part of it too. So just a moment while I jump over, and I'm skipping ahead. So this one's a little older. It looks pretty much the same because this is from 2010. But this one, it looks pretty much the same. This is the career report for an MBTI. This is just a sample report that was generated, Jane's sample. And to give you an idea, this also gives you an idea of what some of the strengths of these assessments are. And some commentary from me to identify job families or broad occupational categories to help get you started in your career search. So it does identify broadly things that might work, but the strong interest inventory is a much better assessment for that. Choose a specific job or career, I would say absolutely not. Select a college, major, or course of study, not likely. But again, it can help you lead towards some general areas, so it might help more with some majors instead of a specific career. Identify strengths and potential weaknesses of your type for the career search process. Absolutely, it does that. Increase your job satisfaction. I think that's a bold claim. Make a career transition or shift. It can help, but again, not choose a specific job or career. It can help with planning your career development strategy and action steps, and I do agree with that part. And I see some chat box blips there, so I will address those too. Don't worry. ENFP is the sample type for Jane's sample, and it gives you a clarity score here. So the important part that they want to stress is that this is a clarity of preference for each area. You know, you're someone who is usually extroverted in specific scenarios, and again, that is not, it's not technically the way we use introversion and extroversion in everyday life, but more about, you know, how we derive our energy. To some people, I seem like a very extroverted person, but I'm not. I'm a clear I. And so it's important to remember what this thing is actually measuring. So it's a clarity of preference. So if you have a high score, it doesn't mean you're super extroverted, but it just means in many, you know, if you have a high extroversion score, it doesn't mean you're super extroverted. It means you clearly prefer in all these different scenarios, extroversion, how you derive energy, and things like that. How your type affects your career choice. So this is where the MBTI, I think, is helpful in terms of career development. So it starts here on page 4, how your type affects your career choice. It'll list preferred work tasks and work environments. And then for each area, there's going to be some action steps that are going to be pretty general, but it's still helpful for kind of moving forward and how you can actually use these results. So for an ENFP, they prefer these specific tasks within work. So if you're researching a job, will it have these kind of tasks where you're helping others develop or learn, developing solutions to problems, creating new products or services, et cetera, et cetera. Is this given career that you're interested in? Is the work environment, does it offer opportunities to work with a variety of people? Does it provide opportunities to travel? Does it encourage and reward creativity? Does it foster teamwork? These are things to think about. Oops, wrong button. So one of the action steps listed, using an occupational library such as ONET. So I'm going to show you the Occupational Outlook Handbook in a second. That is one. Investigate the kinds of tasks you would be doing and the kinds of environment, and the kind of environment you would be working in for a given job. So how it affects your career exploration. And while these, I agree with what they're listing here with these strategies and challenges for the type, it's important to remember that for career exploration, for actually finding those job titles that might fit your interests, it's not a good tool. But once you find those, researching further the challenges and the strategies, this is a good tool for that. So, I mean, it's very self-explanatory, but the challenges for this type may have a hard time focusing amid all the possibilities, and a suggested strategy for that is to first group all the possibilities into 3 categories, high, medium, and low, and then work to prioritize those in the top group. So some simple strategies, but some things to think about when you're researching career careers, or even for these strategies if you're already in a career. If you're already in a specific job, it can help you a lot because you'll know about the challenges that you're facing. Some of the action steps: review the list of strengths that are natural to part of your type. Make sure to rely on them as much as possible throughout your career exploration process, especially when you're feeling anxious. How it affects your career development. So this is kind of how it works over time, not just for that career researching piece or searching and researching. So some of the challenges here. For the ENFP type, you may have trouble determining priorities amid the many possibilities you can see. Sounds familiar. Reflect quietly on what is most important to you as a strategy. Figure out what needs to be done first and what will have the most impact. And for action steps, evaluate how much the job you have in mind will allow you to use your natural strengths and challenge you to use other preferences. You'll probably be most satisfied with a job that allows you to use your strengths most of the time, but also provides a manageable degree of challenge. And so after it does that, it kind of breaks down these big job clusters, these categories, these job families. And they use the self-selection ratio to compare your type to specific job types. So let me just scan down so you can see what it looks like before I explain that. So for the ENFP, the most attractive job families, personal care and service is this overarching big cluster. There's a high score there. And for each job family, I think there's between 14 specific job titles and 230 some. And so it uses the self-selection ratio to show you and your type how it compares to the general population. So when they do a sample for these jobs, they have a large sample of thousands of people in these jobs that are happy doing work. They're happy with their work. They have job satisfaction, and their type is an ENFP, for example, because that's what the sample is. And so it would say compared to the general population, there's an unusually high number of ENFPs in personal care and service. There's an unusually high number in art, design, entertainment, sports, and media. Those are the top two here. So that's kind of how they develop these attractive job families, these moderately attractive job families, and these least attractive job families. It's comparing the type to the general population that is in this group, this career cluster, and these people are satisfied doing their jobs. So of course, least attractive on the bottom. Architecture and engineering, there are ENFPs in there, but they're probably, there are not few, and they probably have struggles frequently because the job type doesn't utilize their strengths as well as other jobs do. Again, it's very broad. It's a very broad assessment for career exploration. And then I think it's just a synopsis at the end. It has a least and a most popular. So it does break down a little bit from those clusters. It'll pull some out. So that's nice to give you a little bit more information. You know, these are sometimes right on the money and sometimes not. So I don't, you know, that's kind of up to each individual person to determine if this is something they're going to research further. And they can do that, it's like it says at ONET, online.onet.org, onetcenter.org, and also the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which I will show in a second. That's the tool that I like. They're very similar. They draw from one another, but that's just another career researching option. And let me just check on the chat box there for a second. Yeah, that is pretty much the depth that you get for the $15. This sample is the 10-page career report, and it's not really a link. It's something I have to set up and go into the Myers-Briggs system and send out an email from there. So you just want to send me an email if you're interested in doing the MBTI. Okay, so the other thing I was going to show you was the Occupational Outlook Handbook. For those who haven't seen it, it is a great career researching tool. And so whenever you're doing, you know, some kind of assessment, or you're just generally interested to learn more about a specific career, this is the career researching tool that I recommend starting with. And just for example, if someone wants to enter anything specific in the chat box, I can pull it up. But I'll just do a random search here. What's a good letter? I feel like G is a good letter today. And these are specific job titles and clusters. Let's see, I've looked at that one before. What's something I haven't looked at? Let's see. One that doesn't, I'm going to take one that doesn't redirect me. Genetic counselors. There we go. So for any occupation that you're researching, it's going to give you a summary of what it is. It's going to explain what they do in that career, what the work environment's like. So there's a good tab for people using their MBTI results, how to become one, what the pay is like, so what the salary range is, what the job outlook is, statistical state, and geographical data. Some similar occupations. So if you're interested in something and maybe it doesn't pay enough or there's too much schooling, you can look at something similar. And more information is a helpful tab because it can connect people with professional organizations to network with. So to really learn out, to really get some in-depth information about a specific career. That's a great thing. So for genetic counseling, first page is just a synopsis. Some of the duties: interviewing patients to get comprehensive individual, family, and medical histories, evaluate genetic information to identify patients or families at risk for specific genetic disorders, et cetera, et cetera. So they do a lot of information about specific tasks, also helpful for the task section on the MBTI, what the work environment is like. So this is just kind of talking about different physical industries, I guess, where genetic counselors would be working, and work schedules. It says full-time standard work schedule, how to become one. Typically need a master's degree in genetic counseling or genetics. The pay breakdown, so there's usually a high end, low end, median end. So top earners, or no, the median was 77,000 plus. The lowest 10% earned less than 51,000, and the highest earned more than 104,000. The job outlook, that's how the Occupational Outlook Handbook gets its name. So how is it growing throughout the next however many years? And so they take a cluster and they update it every few years, and they cycle on to the new to the next group. So it's not for every specific career you see, it's not going to be 2016 to 2026. It might be 2018 to 2026. It might be 2020 or 2014 to 2024. It just depends what cycle they're in the updating. So employment for genetic counselors is projected to grow 29%, which is much faster than the average. So it just shows you, in terms of job security, it might be a good area to look into for someone who's interested in it. State data, I'm not going to get in the minutia there. Similar occupations. Epidemiologists, health educators, community workers, marriage and family therapists, medical scientists, physicians, and surgeons. More info. So here are some professional associations, and there's a board for you to also learn more about genetic counseling. So that was the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Just to highlight a point that I made in the beginning is that career assessments are really best done in groups to really get a better look at the potential options for a given person. So the Strong Interest Inventory is a great tool for career interest and for career exploration. It's one of the most valid assessments that's available. There are physical skill and aptitude tests. There are work values assessments, which I think are great because most people, like I said before, don't have a perfect career, but there are many different careers that can fulfill their work values. Personality assessments, what we're doing today, Myers-Briggs, and social media assessments are fun to do, and they like to steal your information, so tread carefully. But you can find out which Game of Thrones character you are and apply that to your career development, so that's, of course, invaluable. You need to know what kind of bread you are. I believe I'm sourdough, but I haven't taken the official assessment, so I shouldn't put that out there. And that brings me to the end, and there are some questions that I will address. And I had another one that I got a while ago, was one that kind of prompted this, was a topic that was requested, and someone asked me, how can we objectively look at our results in an honest way? I feel that it's really easy to convince ourselves we are perfect for a particular career because we want it. And that is a great question. These are self-assessments. These are not aptitude tests where you are put in front of a puzzle to solve. This is something you are self-selecting. There's a self-selection bias. And so, I mean, the short answer is you can't look at it objectively. But that doesn't mean you can't use it that it can't be a super useful tool, because likely in most scenarios, you are answering it objectively. It might not be the case for everyone in every situation. But the best way is to really bounce these thoughts and these ideas off trusted friends and family, to get an idea of how others look at you. And that's one of the interesting things I think about the 16 types at work that I was reading earlier, how others perceive you. And they do focus a lot on the negative, I noticed, for that, which I think is kind of short-sighted. But it is interesting to get that kind of a read from a more objective view from other people, to see, like, I feel this way about it. I've self-selected these answers. Does it make sense to you that I'm like this? And you can read off the synopsis or the summary of your type. So that's one of the ways. Another way is, like I said before, use a number of different assessments, and try to follow Richard Bohl's rules for taking assessments. Try not to predetermine how you want it to turn out. Try not to think, I want to be a doctor. How would a doctor answer this? There's no perfect way for this to be objective, because it is self-selection. Okay, so there's the first one. About INTJ, if not a typical team player, can they succeed in leadership roles that require managing teams of people? So my short answer would be yes, and I think the short answer from a Myers-Briggs perspective would also be yes. That would be one of the challenges that they might identify, and there would be suggested strategies for INTJ. Let me see if I can find anything just quickly here about that. There are solutions in here, but it would take, you don't want me to get the 20-minute response to that. So I would say that there are suggested solutions for each type, and not to let any of the results be kind of an excluder to take you out of consideration for something based on one little part. Because with something like that, a leadership role that requires managing teams of people, I guess it would depend a lot on the percentage of time you would be managing teams of people with a given position also, and how willing that person is to go to certain lengths to work on that. So, what kind of career development activities would be available for someone to really work on their leadership skills. I know there are obviously leadership certificates one could look into, leadership courses. There are certain steps that a person can take to kind of work on any of these challenges that are listed from their specific type. And all types have challenges. All types have challenges. So that's the long INFP answer that I'm giving, because that's my type. And as you can see, it's vague, and that is one of my characteristics. You have a friend who's taken the MBTI test multiple times, and the results always steer her toward careers in law enforcement. She says she has no interest in that. What advice would you give to someone in that situation? Should she take it with a grain of salt or not? So yeah, like I just said, I do think it's important to take things with a grain of salt with these. It just is to give you ideas, not to tell you what that perfect career for you is. And I mean, I guess one of the things is it's good to hear that this person is getting similar results each time. One of the validity issues with the MBTI is that if you take the test and take it again in 6 months, there is a 50% chance you'll have a score that's off by a letter. That's a little bit different. And so I know for me, it's wavered a little bit, but I've come back to where I was. INFP is pretty much what I am. And with any of the assessments, you look at the types and you learn more about them, and you decide which one you are. And so I guess that's one of the good things, is she's getting the similar results every time. But what is it about those careers in law enforcement? So what this person would have to do is kind of break down what it is, what are these tasks within law enforcement. It might not be It's not someone who's interested in being a police officer, but it's someone who values justice highly. It doesn't mean they want to be involved in actually policing the law, but there are reasons why it's drawing those parts out of her and suggesting that. But again, like I said, this is not the greatest test for career exploration. It made me jump to the bottom again. And okay, I don't see any other questions. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending and for hopefully learning a little bit more about the MBTI. Again, send me an email if you want a more in-depth report about your type from the free report. If you want to do the $15 one, send me an email, let me know, I can set that up. And yeah, thank you so much. There's my contact information, cmiller66@wsu.edu, phone number, the career support website, and the career blog where I post information about online opportunities for online students. Thank you so much.